let's start off. Let's start off the year with a cheers.
Oh,
There
you
you
got to.
go.
Are you recording? Oh, we are recording. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky. So, so cheers. There's a here's the 2024. It's been shit already.
I found him under his desk. I have no idea how he got there.
Uh, but yeah, it's um giving it a go.
Okay, so this is one of your New Year's resolutions?
To drink more.
Drink more. Start
You,
the year off right. Yeah.
no, my New Year's
No.
resolution is to detach more.
Okay.
If by some slim chance it involves having a drink in my hand, okay, fine. But
Well,
detach
so
more.
so explain. Go deeper. I'm like lay down on the couch. Tell me about your mother. Tell me about your father, and tell me what detach more. What does that actually mean?
Well, as you know, as many people have heard throughout the years, I believe that I have admitted to myself that I'm a workaholic.
You, so the first step is admitting to yourself
First step is admitting.
yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
And
Step one
so
has been achieved.
and so with that, I've also seen that you can see like, the little memes of like, spend more time with your family and all of this other stuff. Didn't necessarily get to me, but it is something that I was just like thinking to myself, why am I committed to working so much when I do really have just, let's just say it, I'm limited, you know? I got a few good
Hmm.
years left in me, but do I want those do I want those few good years
I'm
to be
limited.
exactly. No, just,
You're finite. You are finite. Yes. Okay.
people started asking me, it's that time of year when people start asking me, was like, "Hey, are you volunteering for this, or are you going to be doing this, or are you going to be doing that?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Am I?" Like,
The
there are
answer is
things.
not automatically yes. That's
The
what I'm
answer is
hearing.
not going to be automatically yes, and so
Hmm.
that's a bit of the detachment. Is
Okay.
detach from always doing things that require me to either be present in front of a computer
Hmm.
or present at a meeting sometime well past the normal hours. Or I think I don't know if we caught this in the start of the recording, but I got a an email from someone who said, "Hey, why weren't you at the meeting this morning?" And first I asked him, I was like, "What meeting?" So then
Right.
I go to my calendar and I see that there was a meeting for 7:30 a.m. Now,
Okay.
yes, I do have an international client, and yes, it's more to the later time of their afternoon
Hmm.
for that meeting. So not
Hmm.
unusual for them, and sometimes not unusual for us to go to those early meetings. But when they send you a meeting request at 2 or 3 a.m., this one just happened to come in at 2:30 a.m.
Is there anyone
I'm
around to hear it?
exactly, if a meeting invite pops up in your inbox. Yeah. So I was just like, you've got to be a little bit more respectful of my time. I mean, I'm not up in the middle of the night patiently
So
waiting by my inbox for emails
yeah.
from you.
So was it an emergency?
It
Like a
was not.
true emergency?
It was
Okay.
not.
Yeah. All right.
It was not. It was just a normal like, let's check in and see where the progress is of this. It's just like, we can do this with like I understand that everybody's so
This
here.
could have been an email.
Yeah, well, it was at 2:30 in the morning.
Right. No, no, the
Waiting for.
response
Yeah,
could have been an email. Oh my gosh.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
so detaching, okay, sounds like not an automatic yes, maybe an automatic no, unless you're just not willing to go that far, that fast. Because I think that's definitely a strategy. It's like
yeah,
automatic no. No, really, you have to convince me, right?
yeah.
First, it's not just lobbing it over
Tell
the fence.
me why
Yeah, yeah.
I
What's the
need to stay
value?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll give you another example. So
Okay.
My wife and I were, I detached a little early, and my wife and I went to go have dinner in a little town. And if you check out my Instagram, you'll see the beautiful little sunset from that town. And I was walking through the town, saw a couple of architectural offices. I saw some of those kitchen design studios, those bathroom design studios, so there's a, there was a kind of a vibe of some of the high-end furniture, high-end like residential and things like that. So there was a trend to do, like, a lot of these stores catered to design trends and stuff. And so we had gone into a couple of them and looked around, said thank you, kind of like left. And noticed that
Just browsing.
Just curious, really. And that'll be a different question that I have for you later on. But so then, we're window shopping, walking around town, and noticed that, I looked down at my watch and I was like, it's 5:00. Like I said, I left early, and I was just like, it's 5:00. And she goes,
No apologies, Cormac. No
yeah?
apologies.
No, listen. And she's like, yeah. And I was just like, the shops are closing down. They're done for the day. They're going home.
Right. What's that? What
I
weird fiction is this?
I walked past the architecture offices, and there was, I'm assuming that there were some that were up on the second floor of a couple of these buildings, because there's shops down below, hair salons and things like that down below, and architecture firms, on the upper floor. All of those lights were on. They were on at 5. They were on at 5:30. They were on at 6. They were on at 6:30.
You're just standing there, like, looking at your watch, looking up at.
Well, we
windows,
just happened to be
looking at your
hanging around.
watch,
Plus,
looking up at those windows.
Exactly. It's like, see, this is
You're
why.
like Miss Minutes. You're Miss Minutes from the Loki show.
There you go. And I was just like, why are they still there? Like, go home.
But you know why they're still.
I know why they're there.
At you.
I know.
This is the thumbnail.
That is
right here.
yes,
right there, right here. This will be the YouTube thumbnail.
Yes, and that is why I am saying that, we need to detach more. We need to relax, because
The royal we, the profession of we. Yeah.
So I sent you a link to the Architizer. What was the title? New Year, New You. Of course, we all hate that statement, but like 8 inspirational resolutions for architects in 2024.
Right.
Let
me pull my phone out.
So the interesting thing about these resolutions is, here, I'm just going to do a real quick rundown. Read more, draw more, see more, find inspiration, go green, prepare for the future, rein it in, and banish the beige. Now, none of them were like pull back, detach, take a breath. It's not an emergency.
More.
It was more. And I'm like,
true. Yeah, good point.
Where is the
Where's
find
the less?
time?
The less is more.
Exactly.
Where's the Corbu? Where's Corbu when you need him?
So I was just like, come on, man. Like, I have heard, and here's the root of this. I've heard way too many people my age sick and passing away this last year.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of it was due to stress, health-related issues due to stress. And when people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, no wonder they were working so much.
It's funny to me that you went to passing away, because there are several things that that people are afflicted by where it hasn't reached that level yet,
right.
But it doesn't matter until it reaches that level.
Well, I have a friend that I work with that is someone in our office, and I don't feel like divulging names or
Yeah,
ailments
sure,
or things,
sure,
but
sure.
they almost worked themselves to death.
Yeah,
And and honestly, that shook me. That shook me
yeah.
pretty hard because I I've known way too many friends from the army that were my age,
Mm.
year younger, year older, that have passed. I mean, we've talked a lot. My army friends, we've talked a lot.
Past is a really nice word. I think you could probably just say died. Yeah, make it
Well,
really hit home. I mean, that's
oh well,
the gravity
it
of the
it
situation.
hit home
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
and yes, I'm, but yes, died. I okay. Take the Wayback Machine. I had a boss, my first boss out of college. He was my mentor. I mean, he was a driving force to setting, maybe in a bad way, setting me up to really kind of pursue excellence in what I do and
Hmm.
how I do it. And one of the ways that he did it was to work really hard.
Hmm.
So he was 51 years old when the few years that I worked for him. He then in probably about like the third or fourth year, let's say fourth year, he had he'd gone into the doctor, and because he had been experiencing a bunch of health issues and a lot of heart issues and things like that. And the doctor basically told him, if you want to make it to 52, you have
Hmm.
one of two choices. You either stop working or continue to work the way you work and die.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, thankfully at the time he was doing a lot of like, let's just, maybe this is one of the reasons why there was so much stress. He had plenty of side hustles of real estate and flipping and all of these other things that he was doing as
More,
well. And
more,
so
more. Yeah,
exactly, more. So financially, he was fine,
yeah,
except for he was killing himself.
yeah. Right.
And thankfully, to this day, he is grown older. He's grown up with his child. He's grown up with his wife, and he did
Hmm.
not die. But he also stepped away from it because he was so high strung. And I've seen so many architects that are are like that. And I've seen so many architects who have either passed, died,
Hmm.
or have had severe health and heart issues. And you gotta just stop and say, why? Why? We've talked about like, some of the since working on this project, I have dealt with a lot of international designers, engineers, consultants from manufacturers and stuff. And I remember, and this one just struck me, and this goes back to like the thing about like, walking through this town of Northville and watching all of the shops close down at 5 and 5:30, and
Hmm.
was just like, I was actually happy about it. You know,
Yeah.
do I get to go in there and see them? Or do I wish that they stayed up on a little bit, later? Maybe. But I was sort of happy about that because when I was talking to an engineer and it was 5 o'clock his time, and because it's 5 o'clock, somewhere, always,
Yeah.
um,
All right.
right? Cheers.
Cheers. Yep. This is the drinking game. Yep. Cheers.
But he was just like, hey everyone, I gotta go. I need to drop off this call. They're closing up the office. I'm like, what does that mean? They're closing up the office. I either leave or they lock me in.
As a kid, though, you always had a key to everything, right? Because of the generation that we grew up in,
True,
right? And
true.
so it's like there is no such thing as locking up anything because I have the keys, because I've always had to have the
Yeah,
responsibility of being wherever I needed to be.
yeah,
And that could not never be an excuse, right? It was like I was locked out or I couldn't be there anymore. And we're bred in architecture school. We were bred. I don't know if it's
yes,
like this anymore because I haven't been in academia, but I kind of assume it is that you do whatever it takes. right?
It
You just do
still
whatever it
is.
takes. And there's arbitrary deadlines that establish whatever it
Right,
takes, which
right.
is kind of crazy, right? It's like arbitrary deadlines drive the whatever it takes part.
Yeah.
And to the point of your meeting invitation that came in at 2:30 in the morning. Like granted,
Right.
it didn't come at 2:30 in the morning Eastern time
Right.
from the sender. It came at some other time, but they knew it came in at 2:30 a.m.
Sure.
Eastern time. And the expectation is you're an architect and you will be there
And you work.
because that's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the sad thing is that we've set up this profession to be that way. I've heard so many people, it's like, oh, I can't believe that my client wants to meet on a Saturday or a Sunday. Like, whoa,
You said yes.
yes, exactly, exactly. That's it. That was,
You have zero boundaries.
yeah. You didn't set the boundaries. You didn't set the expectations. Yes, I understand that a lot of people work around the some of like the client, some of their clients, especially if it's single family residential or things like that, you sort of work around some of those things. But you set the expectations, and if you don't set those expectations, of course they're going to call you send you an email at 2:30 in the morning and expect you to be at a meeting at 7 a.m.
Right.
Whether it's realistic or not, I didn't say I I didn't say yes.
So what was magic, Cormac, about January 1st, 2024 for you versus some other time? Because you've established this behavior over
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to quit, number one. Like, just be realistic, right? It's going to be hard to,
Yeah.
because your natural response typically is yes.
Mhm.
And that's how you've been, programmed is probably a rough word, but it's been ingrained in you, right, for so long.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, like what is it about now? Is there
Another
Tell me.
year? Honestly, I'll be 100% honest with you. It was another year of watching me lose PTO time. That I don't, that,
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because like that is a brutal realization that you have to
watching
internalize.
money get flushed down the toilet.
Right.
We don't pay out. It was actually interesting. I was having a conversation with my sister who was visiting during the holidays, and I was telling her about losing PTO, and she was like shocked. She's like, and she works in the medical field, and in her doctor's office, if they have, she was like, I never have any PTO time left over. And I'm like, I always have PTO time left over, like a lot of it. And there were people that I knew that were, basically they went MIA at the beginning of December. It's just like
Use it or lose it.
they clocked out for Thanksgiving, clocked back in January. And I'm like, why am I not doing that? Why?
Yeah. Because and it's not to the company's advantage to force you to do
Right.
that. And
Absolutely not.
I'm like picking my words carefully here, right? Because, like, of course, like HR is going to say, yeah, you should take time off. Like, we value you. You need to have balance in your life.
Right.
But at the same time,
Right.
like, no one is actually enforcing that to happen. And you're not enforcing that to happen, right?
And because I watched another year tick by where I would lose, let me just say it out loud. So again, I can come to terms with it. I had 5 weeks. I get to roll over 2. So I lost 3.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's a lot of time.
And so, if you look back at that Architizer, resolution thing that I sent you, read more, draw more, see more, those are things that obviously could have been something that I did during those 3 weeks of lost PTO or those 5 weeks of unused PTO. I mean, those are things. And so that's when I started to realize, what the hell am I doing? Like, what is the point? What is the point of losing this time that I will never get back?
So let's take the next step in this journey. How do you enforce this? Because it's easy in January
Mm-hmm.
to say these things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But accountability 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 months from now, you might feel different. Like there's deadlines, those, and so how are you, because I feel like that is actually how this will happen is
Right.
you have to plan. You've said this before, right? What's the piss poor performance prevents
Prior
like,
planning prevents piss poor performance.
there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
And so
Say it
you're a
with me.
planner,
Yep.
you're a project manager, right? And so you actually have to have a plan
So
for this to work.
so we have a calendar for the entire architecture and interiors department
Mm-hmm.
um, within the firm that is PTO and time off.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually already started to populate it. I've populated it with time that I would need to, like, say, take my son back to school or pick him up from school, or the volunteering down in the St. Pete Grand Prix. So heading to Florida and watching cars drive around in
I'm
circles.
volunteering at a car race.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Trust me.
Nice.
Hopefully they're not.
I think that's awesome.
They're not listening to this, I know, but I mean, come on. The only reason I volunteer is I get free access to go into the paddock
Yeah.
space. I get to walk through like the pits of the junior teams. So you get to see like all of the things. And where I'm at, I'm right on the straightaway at turn one and
You got it all planned out, man.
got it all planned out.
I love it.
And then honestly, there are a few things. This is my 25th wedding anniversary year.
Wow.
This is also my wife's 50th birthday year, which she probably isn't a big fan of me saying that on
She
air.
doesn't
But
listen.
she's not.
Don't worry about it.
She doesn't listen, and she ain't here.
Right.
Um, so these are milestones that I let my own like milestones come and go. I'm not letting them go again.
These matter.
These matter.
These totally matter. And
Yeah.
you have to be the one because nobody else will do this for you, right? I tell my kids this all the time when it comes to advocacy of boundaries, right? Which is like no one else is going to do this for
Right.
you. No, and you're living proof of that. You're feeling it, right? It's like, oh, well, if Cormac's willing to do it, then let him do it. Let him
Exactly.
work.
Exactly.
Let him answer those emails at 2 a.m.
Right.
Let him, because like
Then I don't
it
have to.
benefits. But your employment agreement,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of the underlying structure here that everybody should recognize, it's a legitimate thing,
Mhm.
is that they get you for 40 hours per week. And I know that is not like an architectural professional
Right.
expectation. It is more than
Right.
that. And it's, it could be anywhere from 10% plus more than that per
Right.
week, right?
Right.
But at the same time, like that is the actual employment agreement between you and the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to negotiate and figure out what that is. I just think the hard part is that you've established your boundaries over a decade or whatever,
Right.
8 years,
Right.
however long you've been there, 5 years. And it's going to be difficult to reestablish those boundaries based on a new set of circumstances
Right.
or rules or however you want to state that. But it's not to say it can't be done, but the onus is on you to enforce that. And I think that that's
Yeah.
easier
so,
said than done.
So I've always dated myself as, if you remember the Life cereal commercials, I don't want it. You eat it. No, you don't.
Give it to
I don't want to
Mikey.
eat it. Give it to Mikey. Well, I've always been
Right.
the architectural version of Mikey.
You totally have.
Yeah.
You're the cleanup hitter. You're the garbage disposal. Yeah.
And and look, I am not one to shy away from extra work and helping people out and
Right.
all that other stuff. But as I've seen more and more, it's just like there needs to be a payback. And I'm not talking about payback of like financial or support from that, because those are there when they're there and they're not when they're not. But it's more of like a payback of like, how am I feeling enriched in my career? Am I feeling satisfaction?
Happiness. Yeah,
And-
right.
And honestly, like this past, and we've talked about it, so it's not going to come to anybody a surprise to anybody that there were many times that I would average around 85 plus hours a week on average, and just, for very, very long stints. We're talking about like months
Mhm.
upon months upon months of just like straight burn. And if you average that out, that's people, there's a lot of people who do it. And, a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes. Yeah, yeah, it's just whatever. And then I want to ask them, why are you doing it? Do you really feel it's necessary to sacrifice so much for moderate gains or
Mhm.
professional satisfaction? Sure. But personal satisfaction, I don't know if I was feeling it this year. I don't know. I mean, you know,
So that's where I was kind of thinking that the root of this was, and because as a designer, as an architect, as a homeowner, as a someone in a marriage, right? It's like the way you feel is often dependent on the thing that you want is often dependent on it being the opposite of the thing you're feeling at the moment, right? So
yeah,
for example, and I think I've said this on the podcast many times, like when I interview a client about the kind of space they want, it is often dictated by the kind of space they have, and the thing that they want is the opposite of the thing that they have, right?
yeah,
And I've seen this behaviorally, right? Human behaviorally, psychologically, time and time again. And so I was wondering if the root for you was like, man, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want
yeah,
this other thing, right? And
yeah,
it doesn't have to be opposite, but it needs to be other, right? Or often the response is other. I want this other thing. And so the pendulum swings, right?
yeah,
The pendulum swings from extreme to extreme, and hopefully you'll find like
yeah,
the happy middle ground, the
yeah.
sweet spot. I mean, that's probably a better way to say it, right? Which is
So
like you
if
you,
we've
you
got the
do the
pendulum,
sacrifice when you absolutely need to do the
yeah,
sacrifice, but only when you absolutely need to do the sacrifice. Like none of
right,
this artificial sacrifice stuff.
yeah. So if we're looking at like the pendulum here, and here's one swing, here's the extreme, and then you're looking for that middle. If I existed for so long way up
Yeah,
here, I
on
mean,
one side. Yeah,
burnout. I'm just going to admit it right now. Burnout is real, and burnout was
yeah,
something that I absolutely experienced over the course of the last year plus, and
yeah.
and I don't want to hold any kind of regret or resentment or things like that. And and then I got to the point where I was just like, the only person that I hold as like regret or resentment to is me for letting me do it to myself.
Yeah, I think that's totally appropriate, right? Because yeah, what good would it do to hold resentment for anybody else, right?
Yeah,
When you're not
yeah,
advocating for yourself, right? If
exactly.
you again, no one else is going to do this for you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to set the boundaries. You have to do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses because the accountability is the hard part, right? I like actually coming back to this
yeah.
as those things come up and saying no, like one thing that Steve Jobs said that really stuck out to me was like at Apple there's 1,000 no's for every yes, and that is
Yeah.
what the difference is between mediocrity and
Hmm.
excellence,
Yeah.
right? And you can apply that to your satisfaction and to your happiness,
Right.
right? Because I think the thing that you saw was you were showing the pendulum diagram with your hands
Hmm.
on the video here, and you were pinned on one side of that
Yeah.
for what gain, right? Because
Exactly.
if the firm doesn't have a good financial year, it is for nothing when it
Right.
actually comes to where if you could qualify a gain there, right? If it
Right.
was
Right.
monetary or whatever.
Sure.
If you don't realize that, then it's like, was it worth it? It's interesting how we all gamble with our
Great.
time,
Great. Yeah.
with our career, because that's what you're doing, right? You are gambling, that you're risking that up front for
Right.
a potential, and that potential future could be a zero, right?
Yeah.
It could be nothing.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a, that's a difficult lesson to learn. But when it happens, I think that does cause you to kind of recalculate.
Yeah. And so there you go.
Yeah.
The because anything can come out of the detachment, reinvigoration, kind of like just breathing new life into the appreciation for what we do. Like all of these things, getting out and just experiencing and seeing things and just seeing how other people operate, seeing how, like, just seeing. So like the Seymour in Architizer's article. I mean, yes, Seymour, because how much we've talked about in the past, how much experiencing different places, experiencing different architecture, different urban environments and things like that really enrich our understanding of how other people do it. Right. And so, just, I'm not going to give myself a list of things. I'm going to give myself a task, one task.
Yeah.
That's all I'm giving myself. It is not a resolution. It is not anything else. It is Cormac, detach.
Yeah. I was just looking for this. I like that because it's like, it's something easy for you to resolve back to over and over again. And you could interpret that different ways over time. The
Absolutely.
word detach. And you can figure out what's appropriate. I'm looking for this. It's not really a meme, but it was just an Instagram. I don't remember if I sent it to you or not, but basically it was like, you are trained in school to do what? Study. What's the next word? Hard.
Yeah.
Study hard. Okay. You get into a career. What do you need to do? You need to work
hard.
Right. And it's like, okay, when does the hard part end? Right. And when do you get to enjoy what you do? And when are you satisfied? And when are you joyful doing it? And when do you look forward to doing it? And it's like, it's weird because it's like this mismatch, this misalignment of, you need to learn this way. You need to practice this way. And that may not match your personality, and that may not match your responsibilities that you've made outside of your career, and that may not match expectations with a spouse or with family members or with trauma that happens, or, everybody's dealing with all of these other things that are completely unseen and should not require an explanation to somebody else. It's like life happens, and life is messy, and there's all kinds of things that potentially could be happening. I thought it was just such an interesting, wake up call maybe is a little too strong of a word, but it's a great perspective to see. And it's like the kind of thing you want to put up on the wall. It's like, you need a constant reminder so that you can make it through the year, and you can try this other way and see where you land at the end of the year, and then make an adjustment. If you want to use like that annual calendar kind of, metronome to this kind of a thing, I think that you need something to keep bringing you back, and just remember, like, okay, let's keep trying this. Let's see, because we can adjust and we can pick the cadence at which we want to adjust, but so a year makes a lot of sense for that kind of a thing.
And, I want to kind of make it clear that detaching isn't an apathetical approach, right? It isn't something that's like, oh, he's just kind of giving up and he's just going to do this or that. Or no, it's detaching and forcing myself to detach basically affords me time for opportunity, right? And that's one of the things over the course of the past year and a half, I will say, probably to the extent of this current project, only because of the demands that this project has had, and you've heard plenty of my stories about this, is there was no time to decompress. There was no time to detach. There was no time. There was no opportunities for me to do anything but the job. So the work hard was all I was doing. And I hate to say, I am not one who lives in a world of regret. I really don't. I mean, whatever I do, I did. It was my choice. whatever, move on, shut up, move on, right?
We're still doing this podcast, Cormac.
We are, but I I do regret that I did not give myself enough time for the opportunities that makes the one thing that the study hard, then the work hard, we're missing the next part, the live hard. Maybe not live hard,
Yeah,
but just
right.
the live hard.
Well, that's what they say, right? Work hard, play hard, right?
Right.
And it's the idea of actually having to enforce a new behavior to create new habits, to create the space for those opportunities that you're talking about, is something that must happen so that you can see if it works for you. That you can see what the alternative is to what you're doing, because you're not satisfied with the way it's going now. So how are you going to go about creating a place in your life so that you can just see if something else is going to work?
Yeah.
It has to change, right?
Yeah.
And there's no other way to actually do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, one key thing, detaching, got a chance to make probably, I would say, my very first cocktail.
Here it is.
Not of the year, but just,
Wow.
I'm not a cocktail
Ever.
drinker. And
Yeah.
I decided I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to make a cocktail. And I did. And clearly
It's like an Archispeak therapy session with cocktails.
with cocktails. So, let me just say, cheers to everybody. Detach. Look for the opportunities, whether they're business or pleasure.
All I can hear is the ice.
Exactly.
The
I
ice
was going to
jangling
say,
around it.
There you go.
This is your version of the jingle bells.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Well, yeah. Cheers to you. I'm excited to hear this, and I'm just excited to hear it because I know how hard you work, and I know how dedicated you are, and I've always been concerned. I'm not going to say worried, but I've always been concerned.
oh, you've been worried
That-
too. Don't even try.
It hasn't kept me up at night. I have my own things to worry about. But the concern has always been there because it's like, for what, right? For what potential outcome
Yeah.
is really, really seen, but then realized. And I think that is something that you kind of have to step back and survey the landscape every once in a while, right? I mean, this is a great time to do it for sure. Because it's just like it actually helps. The calendar rolling over does help us, give us an excuse to do that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about goal setting, and we've talked about strategies for that and stuff in the past. But the magic is not in the calendar rolling over. It's in recognizing that something needs to change, and then starting to figure out how you're going to figure out what needs to change. And so I'm again happy to hear this. This is cool. News.
I will say that if I didn't take the time to detach and take the opportunity to go with my wife and my daughter to her hair appointment, my daughter would have been coming home with some red hair that she would have been, in at least my eyes, called Ronald McDonald every day.
That almost happened.
So, I wasn't going to sit in the salon with them. So I went for a walk and was just walking around town. And then I kind of like walked back in. And I was like, what is that? Like,
What's going on?
I was
here?
like, that is a color. That is like, if,
You're like, wait, I'm a designer here. I have input.
well, so that I'm quietly like, I don't want to offend the lady who's doing my daughter's hair and stuff. So I'm texting my wife and I'm telling her, it's like, I can see the look on my daughter's face. She's not happy. What do we do?
But she doesn't want to.
But she doesn't want to say anything.
Want to like upset the apple cart.
And so I was like,
right.
what do we want to? What can we do about this? And then, my wife kind of is not one, like so she kind of stepped in and started talking about it. And then I just kind of like went for another walk because I wasn't going sit there and confront them after here I am covertly saying, wow, that's really red. And then I like leave and I come back and I'm like, all right, clearly somebody talked to somebody. See, so
Your message got through.
Yeah.
Because you detached. Yeah.
Because I
A
detached.
crisis was averted.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. The crisis would not have been happening at the salon. It would have been happening when you got home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, she was just like, I was sitting there and I was almost in tears. Like, just say something. Like, don't.
Yeah, seriously.
Well,
I know where she learned that, Cormac.
yeah, I've almost been in tears.
Well, cheers to 2024.
Cheers to 2024.
Your first. Let's get this in focus here. There we go. Look at that. We got the refraction going. Got
There
small face in the glass. It looks good. All right, man. Talk to you next time.
And everyone.